Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Anchor of the Week, where we have the hard conversations, hear people's stories, and challenge perspectives. We got a great show for you today, but first, let me tell you, I'm Courtney.
And this is Zac. And
Yes.
we're at the Anchor of the Week. We have a mega episode. We've been away for a few weeks.
We have.
So we are regrouping now, and we're talking about tradition. And obviously we had the intro, actually, was our last episode on the streets. But we're going to dive a bit more into it today.
Exactly. Tradition in and of itself, I feel like it is just such an interesting
Yeah.
thing. And when we were on the streets, we had some really good conversations, just people's perspectives. It was very personal.
Yep.
But I think we're going to today take a look at more of like the big picture of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited because the best part about this conversation is that I think you and I have different points of view.
Yes. And so, we're going to just talk about it a little bit and the things and bits and bobs. But then also, we're kind of, not a debate, but just, I think we've just got two different perspectives. And so we're going to kind of hear Courtney out and hear me out.
Exactly.
So
I think we both know the answer is we meet in the middle.
Yes,
But we're going to have some fun before we do that. So tradition in and of itself, what is tradition?
Yeah.
I guess is the question.
I think it's a huge culture thing to start with. I think when I think of tradition, at least from the top of my head, I think, okay, it's something that's passed down through culture and through families and generations and things like that. And it's things that have been passed down from generations and generations before that still stick with us today.
Yeah.
What do you think of?
Yeah, when I think of that, or I think of things that like almost like bring like a sense of security or like familiarity, right? So
huge.
When you do like, okay, our family has this tradition, and it's like everyone almost like depends on that to happen at Christmas, and if it doesn't happen, the world like caves in, you know what I mean? Or like whatever the tradition is, which is cool because it's like a good thing to like look forward to. And I think it brings a lot of unity, tradition just in and of itself, like if everyone's kind of counting on the same thing or like there's like that common goal that we all work towards, you know what I mean? Like if we're going to use like the Christmas tradition thing, like, I don't know, there's a certain dinner that everyone has together, like then like the whole family comes and like maybe puts differences aside to like make that one goal happen because everyone knows like that's like a stable thing.
Yeah. And it makes you feel like you actually belong to something.
Yeah.
And it's not just like for yourself, but I belong to this community, I belong to this church, to this family meal, whatever.
It's not for yourself. Interesting point, because I think a lot of times we do traditions for ourselves.
Yes, that's true, actually, yeah.
Well, that's probably going to come up a little bit later. It's okay.
Yeah. Let's look at also, I guess, like the difference between habits in general and traditions.
Yeah.
I think habits, at least for what I would see it from my perspective, is much more kind of personal, and it's very much like my own habits, and it's the things that I've developed myself. Rather, traditions are the things that are developed from ages before, I guess. Not ages, even just your parents, it could be,
Which is really interesting because I feel like, I mean, maybe like when you start a family, I don't know, you think, oh, okay, like we're going to start some new traditions. Yeah. But I feel like, traditions are these things that you just like walk into. Yeah. And it's a tradition, and so you just do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I definitely think habits are a more personal thing. But when do habits become tradition?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, and I genuinely think, I think it's just that general theme of, like, generation to generation, like, what is being passed down. If my habits pass down to my kids and then they pass it on, like, I think it somehow becomes
a tradition.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, I think it has to do with that generation thing. Yeah. For sure.
But I think as well, like, for a tradition to be a tradition, there's, like, this element of, like, you can't change this.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Almost as if, like, there's, like, a certain, like, sacredness. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Like sacredness?
It's sacred.
It's sacred. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But it's also that, like, I don't know. I just think, hopefully, if you're listening to this, you can kind of pick up on where I stand on this conversation. But like there is a certain just kind of like almost like untouchability of a tradition, which kind of like for me like sets off like red flags. Yeah. Like I can appreciate it, but if it's so sacred that like if someone does not comply to it, like
so do you think that's the unhealthy point then of a tradition? Because I think it's unfair to be like, oh, traditions itself is unhealthy, and I know you don't necessarily think that, but But also, like, there is a point where it is unhealthy. So, and it's bad for us or whatever. And it's like, why are we actually doing this? And we should start questioning things, actually.
Because just as much as traditions will, like, unify, like, if we're going to use, like, the Christmas, like, the family dinner thing, right?
Good example.
Like, what if one part of the family doesn't want to do it this year? And what happens? All of a sudden, this family's now dysfunctional and there's like a rift between the family, all because, I don't know, one cousin did not want to come to whatever, you know, or like, let's do it differently this year. And I think, like, when you, like, break it down, it does come to security, right?
Yes,
like, every human wants to feel secure. And if you don't, like, have a healthy ways of feeling that security, then, of course, someone, like, rocks the boat or tries to change something.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think in the world where, like, we live in this world now where it's very, like, secluded, by yourself, individualistic, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, like, traditions are actually such a cool way to, it's almost like you, like, hone back in on, like, not your roots, I guess. I don't know if that's a good way to phrase it.
Like plugging you back into community.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I don't know. And I think when I think about it and I see, like, you know, even just my brother, like, planning his wedding and stuff like that. Like, obviously my dad wanted certain things in place just because of...
Did they happen?
Some of them did. And I think it's actually special that some of them did, because it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of respect. I mean, this is going off now from what we were just talking about now, but it is respecting, like, their space a little bit. And it's also like, I don't know, those things, like, they hold high value. I mean, we can get into that in a minute, but yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. I think when we do live in such a world of, like, individualism and stuff like that, very secluded, like, it's nice to have traditions where like, I don't see my family at all in the year, but on Christmas Day, I'm going to go and do, like, what my parents want, kind of thing. Because it's like, this is, like, their time for us all to be together. And it's respecting their idea of us being together, sort of thing.
Is that your first point?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
But, like, it's just, again, like, you'll find throughout this conversation, it'll be, like, I don't know, some of Courtney's thoughts, and then, like, I'll just come at it slightly differently. But, well, okay.
As how it usually is.
Yeah,
Should we just dive into our points, though? Because I feel like...
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let me
do you want to start,
points.
or?
Yeah. I can
it.
start. And again, it's... I know that tradition is good, and tradition has its place. I also, just, like, little disclaimer, like, I didn't come from a family that, like, had a lot of traditions.
Right.
And my family was very vocal about that. Like, for example, Christmas. Like, my mom would always be like, remember, it is just a day. So if it doesn't look like it did last year, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's fine. Like, we're together, you know, and I haven't been, I feel like I've almost missed more Christmases than I've, like, had at home. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and that's okay, because my mom always instilled in me, like, it's a day. You know what I mean? And we'll make the most of it wherever we are, whoever we're with.
Doesn't matter what we're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
So I kind of come at it from that, and I, like, really appreciate that from my parents. Of course, we had things growing up, you know, my grandparents would, like, come over, you know, in the morning. But then when we moved, they couldn't come over. Yeah. But it was okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my little personal anecdote. But my first point is that old structures can't hold new vision.
Nice.
I'm just gonna, So my point in this, right? Yeah. A lot of times we do tradition because it is, you know, for whatever reason, whatever season it was, it served its purpose, right? But then we just keep on doing it for the sake of tradition. Yeah. That new vision is happening, new things are coming. You know, it's like the verse in the Bible that says, like, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. Why? Because it will burst. Yeah. Right? So I am someone that's, like, super visionary. I love, like, forward thinking and, like, I don't know, like, it's just so exciting to have new things happening. And, like, I definitely more lean that way. Yeah. And a lot of times I have experienced and I have seen, and this is, like, on little, like, personal levels, but also, like, globally or politically or, like, societally, like, levels, when you have something new, something fresh, or, like, maybe a new young voice comes in. Right. But no, it does not go with the tradition, so then you are quieted, you know? And I'm a person or a thought or a movement. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because, like, okay, so my only question for this.
Okay, tell me.
This is so funny. But, like, do you think that's tradition that's causing that, though? Like, it sounds like that's something more, like, I don't know, just old ways or thinking. Like,
but that's what tradition is.
I guess.
We do it like this because that is how we do it.
Yeah.
Right? Your dad at the wedding. Greg, I love you. It's fine. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, yeah, sure. Yeah.
You need to do this. Why? Because it's just what we do. Even if you don't like it, this is what is expected of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then so your brother coming in and being like, well, actually, that doesn't fit what me and my future wife want. Like, this is how we're going to do things.
And that actually ties in well with my point.
Oh.
Because
also, for the record, we don't know each other's points, by the way.
No.
I feel like that should be said.
Yeah, that
Okay,
should
cool.
be said. Just like the idea of like it keeps us reminded on where we are rooted and also where we come from. And I appreciate, again, this is all like saying this, I completely understand that tradition can get way too carried away. And I do agree with a lot of your points as well. Yeah. I think it's more just, I love the idea of tradition, just at least certain ones, like they keep us rooted and they remind us from like, it's important to know where you come from. Like it's important to know what my grandfathers did and what they valued. And because, you know, I am literally a product of them, you know? And so it's kind of like, it's in my blood. So it's important to stay rooted to like, or stay connected to like, to those sort of things. And I think especially, for example, like just because we're using my dad and marriage as an example, but like, you know, I would want to do a couple of those things. Again, to be honest with you, it's funny because when we were having this conversation with him, I was like, Dad, you're like laying this on way too thick on him.
Yeah.
I was like, it's his day. He needs to choose what he does. But also I think there is some value in like holding on to some of those things because it's not just my big day. Like it's also their big day. And I know okay, but like hear me out because
is it though?
Well, they've raised me for 24 years. Like it's like I feel like it's when you start leaning against like going to like pushing tradition completely out, you're just making the world more about you, I feel like, because it has to suit my ways. And I'm not now again, this is where it gets like muddled up because well, it does. It does because like obviously when you're visionary, like appreciate those things, but also like when you just brush it off and you're like, no, this is the world we live in now. You know, I can think of so many examples where people do that and it's like they're just doing it because it's based off of emotions or it's based off of what they like today. And
but is that not what tradition is as well, though?
Based off of what they like
because you
before.
like the comfort of it.
Yeah, I guess the question is like, where does it? You know, what are they and where does it really root from? But I think there's a balance, obviously.
I mean, obviously there's a balance.
For sure, yeah.
If you haven't caught on, the end of this episode, we'll find the balance.
Yeah, it is balanced. But I think there is that element of like, people just brush off the old. Yeah. And it's like, hold up. Like, let's not be like rash. Like, yeah, we should be visionary. We should move forward. Like, not stick to the old. But like, also like, let's see like, where did the old come from? Like, what were the values? And can we still apply those same values as we move forward? Rather than it being a case of just like, let's brush this off completely.
See, this is a good point. The values maybe stay, but like the tradition built around it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
I can get on board with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
We're shaking hands.
If you're not watching us on YouTube, we just shook hands.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. It's more like, I don't like the idea of just brushing the value off. But what's your second point?
My second point. All right. Number 2. It makes us comfortable and gives us an excuse to be apathetic.
Okay. I could agree with that, to be fair.
Right?
Go on,
because
elaborate,
why? When it happens the same way every single time, you just know what's happening. Like, you don't have to think about it. You know, you don't have to think about, like, how has it changed with the times? How is this actually benefiting people?
Yeah.
You know? And it, like, if it's just tradition. Like, we don't think about it. Everyone does the same thing. Like, if we're using, like, these family examples, right? Like, wedding or, like, Christmas, there's, like, way bigger examples that have like more like detrimental effects, but
it's a surface level. Sure.
Exactly. Because I don't want to start any riots today, so we'll stick to Christmas dinner.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, what if no one likes that food anymore, but we still just have it because it's tradition? You know what I mean? But like, that was great grandma Irma's whatever like recipe, and we have it every single time, and no one likes it, but no one needs to then like do anything about it. It just gives everyone space to kind of complain about it and move on. You know what I mean? Like, and do the same thing next year. And it like gives like this air or like almost like like in my brain.
It is apathetic.
It's like a film almost of just like apathy and comfort when you're not going to challenge any tradition like in a healthy way. You know what I mean? But like, it's just, you just do what you do. You don't even have to think about it. You're born into it. And so it just is what it is. Is it just what it is? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting because it's like you got to challenge these things. I don't know, based off of not just emotions. You know, it can't just be like reactional and like instinctive. It's like, oh, I don't like this, and you just like take it out. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like there needs to be a little bit more thought process. I mean, this is a very small example, but yeah, that's a good point. Well done. My point, just like, I think it was what we were mentioning earlier, but it's just, it brings a sense of community and belonging to something bigger. So I kind of like touched on it with my last point, but it's just the idea of like, it's not just about us. Like, it's about people around me, my family, whatever, kids, whatever. And so it's just like the idea of a tradition or something, you know, a healthy tradition, I think could be super, like, that's super cool. Like, brings people together. It's for good value, good reason. Reminds people why we're doing things. I think there's something really special about that because it brings people together, and it's like honing down in, again, that it's like the Christmas time that once a year you don't see your family or parents.
Why don't you see your family?
Yeah.
Maybe that's an issue.
That is an issue. Yeah, that needs to be sorted. But tradition, like a Christmas meal, can just be an easy way for like us to like, it's like an excuse to bring people together.
Yeah.
So.
I see you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Okay, thanks. Anyway, yeah. But again, like, we're just saying this, like, there is a healthy balance to both. I'm not all on this side, and I know you're not.
Because it does fight, like, the here we go. Individualism.
Yes.
I always forget a syllable in that word.
It's a hard word.
Yeah, thank you. Like, it fights the individualism, right, of culture and of, like, I am my own, you know what I mean? And I do appreciate that, and I think that is definitely, somewhere, like, we've definitely jumped off the deep end. Wow, words are hard for me right now.
Carry on, yeah.
Like, into that, you know what I mean? And was just very much so, like, okay, like, we just reject everything and we're our own people. We don't have to think about anyone else, you know, which is apathy and, like, as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, a lot of times, whatever, we just say it's, like, one thing or the other.
Yeah.
But if I'm only caring about myself, that's also very apathetic because I don't have to, like, give to anyone else.
Yeah.
So I see that in your point.
Okay, let's talk through then, like, a healthy way to challenge these things, because I think it's easy to be like, one side, other side, but because I think it needs to be done in a I keep using healthy. I wish there was a better word than that, but in a healthy way, you know, and it shouldn't just be like I was saying off of reaction, or it's like, oh, I don't like this, and
ask yourself why you don't like it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because maybe you don't like it because it's not good.
Yeah.
Or it's not actually benefiting anyone anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not just because you'd rather not.
Yeah.
If that makes sense?
Yeah, and I love the idea of like going beyond, like, I'd rather do this, and it's like,
well, we don't rather do a lot of things.
Yeah, you know
what we end up doing.
It's like that teenage kid.
Yeah.
It's so harsh, but
no, it's true.
It's true. Like,
do we ever actually really grow up? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, that's true. But I think we need to get out of that mindset. Like, I'd rather this. Oh, like, this is such a ball ache or whatever. Because
there's a difference between, like, I don't feel like doing it versus, like, I don't think we should.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good one.
I love that. Yeah. And just, like, again, like, it's asking, like, okay, what's the value behind this? Like, why are we doing this? And like, again, like, so that's like my side of it, but on your side as well, like, it's good to challenge. It's good to be critical, you know, like, genuinely ask questions. I feel like those sort of things, parents, grandparents, like, where do these things come from? Yeah, it's worth looking into.
Yeah. And, like, the point that we made earlier as well of, like, try to look at more at, like, the value or, like, the belief, you know what I mean? As opposed to, like, there's, like, tradition built around the belief.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I think that's a big takeaway.
Right.
Because it's, like, the value is there for a reason, you know, but tradition comes and go, right? Like, that's fine. That's
you could create a new tradition.
You could create a new tradition around the same value, or no tradition, but still value it. If you do Christmas, what are you actually valuing? You know what I mean? Like, well, A, Jesus. B, family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
friends.
Just friends
to top it all up.
That are family.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, if your value of this situation is family, you know, then it doesn't matter what the tradition around it looks. I don't care if Aunt Sue brings her whatever, like, special roast.
Yeah.
Are you still valuing that value? And I don't want to get too spicy here, but here I am every episode.
Do it.
But we see this a lot in the church. You know, like, we built these systems and these traditions, and you see them in a bunch of different denominations as well. And you just do it because that's how we do it, you know? But if you actually were to strip back all of the layers, what are we valuing? And we'll see that between all the differences. And I feel like that's a lot, like, with the church and different, like, denominations, like, they all have different traditions, and it's the traditions that separate us, right? Because you do it that way, but we do it this way, and we've always done it this way. So if you choose to do it that way, you have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and that's not what traditions are for. right?
No.
Yeah.
Right? They're not supposed to separate.
Yeah.
They're supposed to, give us kind of like that sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the value, okay, what does this tradition actually like value? When it was created, what was the value it was trying to like uphold?
Yeah.
And then from there, you'll see that there is a lot more belonging, right? Than, what you thought separated actually brings us together because we realize we're actually valuing maybe the same thing.
Yeah.
But we got so fixated on the surface of the way that it like came across, like, like the way that we portrayed that value.
Yeah.
And for me, that's really, really sad. And I said, like, again, obviously, like with my experience and stuff, I see it with the church, and just the nature of our jobs with the church. But like you see it in families, you see it in so many different
Can you think
places.
of traditions outside of the church that are unhealthy? I don't know. Is that too spicy of a question? I mean, like even just, I guess, the way women were looked at before and as opposed to now, like that's something we've gotten rid of, thankfully. But I mean, it's currently changing as we go.
Yeah,
but
it's a process.
But yeah, it is a process. Yeah. But again, that's like a good example of like, that's a tradition that we're getting rid of because of, for good reasons. So
but at the core of it, it's valuing a person as an individual.
Yeah.
And we have seen a lot of extremists of this.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden we are devaluing other people at the sense or the goal to make us feel value.
Yeah.
And so really what we're doing is we're almost creating a new unhealthy structure.
Yeah.
But the value of it should be the same. Like, are we valuing the person, the individual, the human? You know what I mean? Like that should be the core, right? And so, but
it's a balance.
Yeah.
I mean, and another thing on the other side of that is like questioning, like, okay, am I getting rid of this tradition because it's not serving me and it's not, basically doing things for me, sort of thing. And I think it's like we were saying earlier, but just to keep going on that point is like just opening up your eyes a little bit and like the bigger picture of, okay, this is beyond just myself and it needs to be beyond like just what it's doing and serving me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Would you agree with that? Yeah,
I do. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're not gonna shake hands on that one.
No.
Yeah, and just like again, like another point on that is that I guess I'm so passionate about like we make the world like centered around us. So I feel like when we get rid of tradition, it's just another like, I guess, I don't know, screw in the board, whatever. I don't even know. Like whatever you're building, it's just like we're just
the statues of ourselves.
Yeah, we're just continuing to build these things, and I'm just, oh man, I'm not for that. So.
Wow, you're talking about like building like our own little kingdoms almost, but not thinking about what we'll be building for the future.
Yes.
Which, if you tune in next week,
oh yes,
is like perfect little teaser. Because honestly, next week we're gonna be talking about generations.
Yeah.
Which is different than tradition, and we'll show you why next week. But stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
But,
Cool, brilliant. I mean, I guess just to wrap things up a little bit, a couple healthy questions, I guess, just to ask ourselves. Who am I serving? Or, who am I serving by making the decisions that I'm making? So whether you're joining a tradition or you're getting rid of one. Because I feel like there are traditions out there that's just very, even self-centered, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the men and women kind of, is that a tradition? Yeah, I guess you would call that as a tradition or a life thing anyway. But, is it serving me? And even if you want to get rid of the tradition, like why are you getting rid of it? Are you serving yourself?
I have a question, which is probably a bad one to have at the very end of the episode. But if I'm just joining a tradition to feel a sense of value and belonging, is that selfish?
Yes. Yes, it is.
But that was one of your points.
Wait, say that again. Is it selfish if...
Like, if I'm just joining to feel a sense of belonging.
Well, I'm not... But I didn't say, like... I wasn't saying, like, just... I feel like that can't be the only reason, obviously.
Okay.
But it's got to be... I feel like... Like, I live in community, and I feel part of the community.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Like, it's if I'm only doing it to be loved and whatever, then maybe I need to question myself. But if that's one of the things that come along with being part of a tradition, I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Okay.
What would you say to that? Genuinely.
No, I mean, I think...
Like, you're part of a community now, and you're part of it because you're loved, right? And
exactly. Like, it is a bonus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not a part of, like, a community just because I wanted to feel loved.
Yeah.
For
it's
me,
not
it was
just
like,
that reason.
No.
But I think it's okay for it to be one of the reasons.
Okay.
Yeah. Because why should I want to be in an environment where I'm not loved? Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, seems simple to me. Yeah. Anyway, this is so good. Yeah, we could carry on.
So yes, all of this to say, there is a balance.
Yes,
in between it.
For sure.
Yeah, that we can't. I mean, I feel like we come to this conclusion so many times in our episodes, but I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
Well, if you're on one side of this, then it's good to question with the other side, you know?
Yeah.
And that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And tradition is.
What word are you going to use?
Tradition can be good.
Yes. But it can be bad. It can. I'm all for that, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we just got to think about why we're actually doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the core value of it, you know? Is it actually serving others?
Yeah.
Or a purpose? Is it serving a purpose other than just for the sake of doing it?
Yeah.
Great questions to ask ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Be critical.
No.
Big point. Oh, no.
Think critically.
Be critical. That's so funny.
Yeah, that's horrible advice.
Yeah.
Don't take that from Zach.
Take that back. Lucas, cut that out.
Yeah, exactly. He's
critical
rolling his eyes as we speak. But
yes.
And we'll continue to critically think in next week's episode, which we told you guys is kind of an extension of this, where we're looking into more of the generations. I'm kind of excited. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be a great time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but until then, of course, guys, you can find us on all the usual spots, all streaming platforms. We've got Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. YouTube as well, and of course connect with us on Instagram and TikTok. I almost said Facebook.
No,
we don't have Facebook.
Not there, No.
Yeah, not yet at least.
Yeah.
I don't think we need it. It's all right. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of The Anchor of the Week, where we attack topics and not people.
See you next week.